everyone, Karen the Warp Spinster here. Welcome to my channel. It is a sunny day today. I think we're supposed to actually get above zero. We didn't have a lot of snow here, especially compared to our neighbors just to the north. The snow that I did clear, I cleared when the wind chill was 42 below. But we, at least in the north, are used to it and prepared for it. I'm sending warm thoughts and wishes for safety and warmth for those in the southern United States who are really getting slammed with this cold, and they just aren't equipped to handle it the way we are. So I hope you all are staying warm and safe. So today we are going to be doing some stitching on these 3 pieces that we did last week. And I think we talked about a variety of things, and I think I am going to do, I was going to just try different things on the sampler, wasn't I? I think I will do this one. We'll start with this one. I think I will first of all stitch down this string here using invisible thread and just, a zigzag stitch or something. And then we'll try a couple of different options on here. I think this will be a good one to try out some things like white thread, black thread, whatever. Because if we do anything really horrendous, it's not gonna it's not gonna show too much here. Although we could do, we've got some hot pink in here in this stripe. So it could be kind of fun to do some hot pink to pull that in, or some of the yellow to pull into these 2 pieces. The 2 of the German Shepherds next door are out gamboling in the snow, so you may hear some barking and play noises in the background. All right, so first thing I'm going to do is load up some invisible thread in my machine. I'll be using a polyester invisible thread. Let me pull it out so I could show that to you. A smarter person would have had this ready to begin with. This is monopoly from Superior Threads. Works really well. It's nice and fine. And other than these old eyes having trouble threading the needle with it, it works really well. So I will do that and be back. All right, that is finished. Just for a quick review here, there is a little bit of batting tucked under here just to give it some more dimension, pop it up off the surface more. And these edges are turned under, so I made this just as I would have for a bias strip, except that it's not bias. So the zigzag I used was I narrowed the stitch, and I could have narrowed it even more actually. Right now it's on 2.0, and I could have narrowed it even more than that because this edge is already finished. It's turned under. So I wouldn't have to worry about making sure that I catch the threads as I go along. And I didn't, and for the same reason, I didn't shorten the stitch. So this will hold it just fine. There is a little tiny bit of fuzz from the batting, but not too bad. All right, so now we get to think about the stitching we're going to do here. I did pull out a piece that I did a while back, and yes, I should finish the quilting on this. I just haven't yet. And there are a couple of stitches that I really like in the circles. A lot of decorative stitches, at least the ones on my machine, don't really work all that well in a circle necessarily. But this one, I just really love this. It's supposed to be just a straight string of little circles, but I think it looks great. It gives it kind of a pearl look going around it, so that's a possibility. And then I also like this one that has a zigzag with some little lollipops or whatever. I think I would probably make this stitch a little denser than that. But that worked pretty well. And then this is the cross stitch, and that works fine too. And of course a zigzag would be perfectly all right too. I really love this stitch, especially for straight. You can see on here that that's a straight stitch works nicely there. I don't know what that is. I'm looking at this through the camera. Oh yeah, I can trim that a little bit. That was raw edge, so there may be some threads and things hanging out there, but I do want to finish this up, finish the quilting on it, and put it somewhere. I don't know where, but I really kind of like it. This is Hollywood Circles. All right, so those are some options we have. Now, which one do we want to do on here? Let's start with this one. And I think I'm going to put in, I was going to say white thread, but I don't think so. White will really get lost on this. Black would be better, but still could get lost. So I'm going to do some hot pink. I think I can find some hot pink. And what stitch am I going to use? I think I will use that ball stitch around here. I don't have to use the same stitch on the inside as I do the outside. Oh, one other thing, sorry. I meant to say this. When I was stitching this, I of course didn't stitch across here. And because invisible thread, I somehow easily lose track of it. Once I've trimmed it, sometimes it will come unthreaded, even if I leave it long. I've learned to sort of make sure that I grab it and tuck it under the presser foot, but sometimes that misses and I end up unthreading the needle. So for that reason, and to save some thread, when I got to this point, I back stitched a little bit in order to lock the stitch, came forward, lifted the needle in the presser foot, just carried the thread across, did a little back stitch here to secure, etc. So I do need to trim the invisible threads that go across here, but it saves some thread and some angst on my part. All right, so I'm going to thread up some hot pink. I know I have some somewhere. It's just how close to hand it is. And then maybe do, it's upside down, can't stand it. Maybe do this circular one around that and see how that goes. So here we are, 3 days later. Not really, but it feels like it. I started out thinking I'll just leave the invisible thread in the bobbin and just adjust the top tension, and that'll be fine, only it wasn't. So I thought, all right, I'll just switch over to white. That will be fine. And, it's roughly the same sort of. No, that didn't work either. And no adjustment of tension or density or anything would change it. So that, all right, I'll just go ahead. No, then I thought, well, I'll go down and get the pre-wound bobbins that I use for embroidery on my brother, only that's a different size of bobbin. So I went to wind a bobbin with this pink color, and I have no more Foff bobbins. I don't know. I only have 2. I don't know why. Mostly because I use pre-wound bobbins most of the time now. So, and I had invisible thread on one and a gold on the other, so I didn't want to unwind either of those. I will order more bobbins. So I took a pre-wound bobbin, the leftover plastic, after I'd used all of the thread, and I tried finagling my machine to think that it was going to work winding a bobbin, but it wouldn't, because I didn't have any way to thread through to hold the thread while it started winding, and then it has to have a little hole near the core in order to sit on the machine to do that. I mean, it was a mess. So I dug out my little hand drill, my trusty hand drill that I've had for, 40 some years, and put a little tape over the plastic so it wouldn't split, and successfully drilled a hole to put the thread through, but it still wasn't going to work if it wasn't sitting correctly. And for the machine. So then I drilled a bigger hole, and then I had to cut it a little bit to get it to the right shape. Anyway, it worked. I am not going to do that on a regular basis. I will simply order some more bobbins. But that's why it hasn't seemed long for you, but it has for me. All right, so I did a lot of practicing on this, and I like the look of the stitch. I would like it better if this were a finished edge. Putting my dry cuticles. And of course, going in a circle, the stitch, see if I can get it to, the stitch spreads a little bit on the outside because I'm constantly turning, and that makes those threads a little bit splayed at the edge, but you know, there we are. So I like the overall look. It's against this black and white print. It's really pretty interesting, and in some ways I really like that. In some ways, not so sure. So I think for this portion of it, I'm going to try just a zigzag and fairly dense and small. I want the emphasis to be more on this than on the inside. I think if I do this on the inside, it's going to be too much. I don't know why. You may think that would be really swell. Or I could have done like larger circles around here and then smaller ones on the inside, but I don't know. So I'm going to try the zigzag still in pink in the center here. All right, this is, of course, it's a smaller oval, so it's a tighter curve, and it's a good thing I didn't use this. The zigzag is even a little much. I didn't want the density of a satin stitch, but I did want some density to it, partly because, you know, it's raw edge, and I want to make sure that I'm catching threads to prevent raveling. But I also didn't want the satin stitch look. I thought that would be too dense and wouldn't have worked very well going around. One of the problems, you can see here, it's a little wobbled there. I may in the end take this out and redo it because that bothers me. It's difficult to see when you have the black and white print, the white against the background. It's difficult to see where the edge is. So that may come out later. We'll see. So that is that one. I'm thinking, I tend to do too much of it. You can see I've got stabilizer under there still. What do I want to do up here? This yellow seems pretty predominant to me, but I don't want everything to be pink and black and white. I don't want this to be this gold color because that would be too much of that. So I either have to do some of this in pink or in white or in black, or a combination thereof. All right, I have an idea. We'll see how it goes. The thing is, we've got some pretty small curves here. So, I think I have an idea. What I want to do is do a straight stitch in the pink on top of this. I would do a decorative stitch, but I'm going to have to turn pretty tight curves here. And that will be, I'll just have to use a shorter straight stitch. And I may end up doing just a couple rows of it. And then do, say, black around the outside, maybe white around the outside. So I'm going to start out and just do the straight stitches on here. See how that goes. All right, so we have just a subtle little bit of pink on there. Not entirely happy with a couple of the beginnings and endings, but, and you can see that I didn't make any attempt to make it echo this, other than it's kind of an oval shape. And that was on purpose because I knew some of these curves were going to get tight, and trying to follow that exactly was going to be not fun, and I didn't think would turn out as well. And I sort of like that, you know me, funky, quirky stuff. So now I think I am ready to do the outside and around the inner. I'm still wondering what color I want to use. It may make not a lot of difference, to be honest with you, but I think I will go ahead and use white. And we'll see how it looks from there. I may want to do some extra stuff on the background. I realized that I didn't have stabilizer under what I did this, but that wasn't not a big deal. But I will have to put some, and a stitch. What stitch? I think on the outside, this is an easy enough curve that I can use that cross stitch or railroad stitch that I like. And then again, I may just do a zigzag on the insides of these. Did you ever have one of those days when you were pretty sure your brain was an abandoned house? And your creative muse just went over to play at the neighbor's house or something. Wow, it's a day. So, first of all, this. I am mostly not happy with this. I would have been better off using a color. Sorry about the bump in the camera. Using a color around here, because this looks so disjointed because of, when it hits the white, then you can't see it. When it hits the black, you can. So it looks messy. Also, while I like this pink stitching around it, I'm pretty much okay with that. This stitching, I narrowed the stitch and shortened it quite a bit with the zigzag. And because this is such an uneven curve, I found it difficult to make it look anything but sloppy. And so then I thought, all right, well, up here, I'm just not even going to pretend. And I'm just going to make it a raw edge applique. So I did a short stitch and just went around. I see I got a little wonky there. So I'm counting this as very much a learning piece, and I can leave it in as that. Or I could, of course, just make this one its own block. So I don't know. I'm not calling it a failure because I learned a lot from this. But I think I would want to redo this. I really like this fabric and the concept of the double, the buckle look on this. I really like that. So no, I think I would probably just make this into a single block, and then I would probably put some other things around, some circles or I don't know what, but this is just, I suppose I could go in and rip out all of those stitches and do something else. That's a possibility. We'll see how I feel. I'm not going to do it at this moment. Then this, I did take out the zigzag, the zigzag in the center and redid it, and I'm much happier with it. Still not perfect. It's a little wobble there, but I am much happier with it. So I learned a lot up here that I could apply down here. So I'm happy with that circumstance, even if I'm not entirely happy with this. So I'm going to leave that on for the moment, but I want to try something else down here. I really like the sort of windy look that happens in this string. But of course I have a straight piece here. Oh, and I'm not going to use Roxanne's glue anymore either. Can you see these dark spots there? That's from where I put the glue on. It's supposed to be basting glue, but it's not working for me anyway. All right, so I think what I'm thinking of, I think I want to do kind of a curved stitch that winds around, in and out and over and around. Actually, I might try it up here first, just because this is really my test piece. See how it looks. And I'm going to do it in pink just because I currently have pink on the machine. And I'll see how that looks. And I think I will use this railroad stitch because it does curve reasonably nicely. It's not a steep curve, but I want to see how that looks. All right, that's rather an inelegant curve for sure. So I think if I do this on something else, I will probably do like an air erasable marker to draw the curve. But I kind of like that idea. And I could even do more than one color and come through it as well. I stopped here because I'm not sure what I want to do down here yet. So that's a possibility as well. We're getting kind of a messy practice piece up here, aren't we? But that's what we're here for. We're experimenting and trying things, what works, what doesn't work. And I like that concept, just would want a better curve on it. So the other thing I thought I might like to do, and what I might do is take this out and then try it as well. And that is to run some under here, just at sort of random, like I did on the village. Let me grab that and I'll show you. And of course I can't put my hands on the village. I have no idea where it is, but running it through as if it's kind of a stylized background that this is sitting on. So I might want to try that. But as I was looking through things, I had a couple of eureka moments. Number one, this is why it's nice to have pieces where you're trying things, is why not couch these? So I could use a thread or a yarn that matches, say, that pink or the yellow or whatever, and then just couch that with invisible thread, which would hide that edge, hold that edge down, but also you wouldn't be seeing the stitches, you would be seeing the accent of the yarn. And I also, on the background, I really do like these kind of decorative stitches just running through the background. So that is certainly something that I could be doing on these pieces as well. So having said that, I think I am going to take this out because it's just inelegant. And because I'm going to do what I can to salvage this so that it isn't just a throwaway experimental piece, in honor of my just keep working with it till you like it motto. And I'm remembering how much I love this stitch going around. I just really like the Alice pieces, you know, I just really do. So I'm happy to be working all of this out before I get to this, which is going to be probably associated with Alice. So I'm going to want to repeat some of these things like that. I could even have some other strips wandering around here as well. So I am going to spend a little time clearing this out. This is Christmas Eve when I'm filming this, and Christmas Eve is my settle in with hot cocoa and some good books. So I still have a couple of days that I can film, so I can take some time to take this out and do some couching around here maybe, and probably up here too. I may take out these stitches then, and I'll just start over again. How's that? And then we'll see what we can do with that. Maybe on this other piece, I will try doing that background business. These are going to be easier to do stitches around because I've got a straight thing here, and these are big enough curves. I think I'll be all right. But it's a little easier to turn corners than it is to get a really nice even curve on some of those stitches. So then I'd have to decide whether I want to, and you know, there isn't a problem with Roxanne's on this one that I can see anyway. So I think, I'm still getting it. Can you see on the back here? Turns brown. So, well, Roxanne's, I don't know. It's just not working for me. Whatever I'm doing is not working for me. All right. Abandoned house. Remember, my brain is an abandoned house today. I will be doing some of this and hopefully coming back later to show you what I've done. I'm back. It is now Boxing Day. And I have taken out all of the stitching here except for this zigzag in the center. And I've been thinking about what kind of couching I might do, and I went searching in my thread stash, and I found some pearl cotton that could probably work, although I think I'd probably want it doubled. And it's a little bit dull for this color. If I want to match it to this, you can see where the glue spots are. I'm going to see if I can go in and fix that. So if I doubled it, it would be all right, I think, in terms of thickness, but it's not really the right color. So I also have some Very Velvet here, which is a very fuzzy, really light velvet in the round, which could also go around here, and I think would be okay. And it doesn't add a lot of bulk and thickness, doesn't really call attention to itself much, and then I could add some stitching around there, knowing that that was the edges were not going to fray much. And then I also have this silk lame braid. I've got plenty, so in fact I've got another card of it. And this would add some pink, of course, to it. And again, it would help to disguise any, and also discourage fraying on the edge. So I think that's a good option as well. I suppose I could do a twist of these two together. Which is a common thing in needlepoint finishing when you're doing the edges of ornaments and such. And then just do a twist. I do have a twister. And then put that on the edge. That would be kind of fun, wouldn't it? A little hard to keep it twisted. So tie it. And that would add a little extra something to it. So that's a possibility. And I also thought, you know, maybe I could do a very narrow bias strip around here. If it's very narrow, then I can curve it around. Probably won't work in here, but I could curve it around there, and that makes a nice foil against this black and white dot. And you know I have to get a black and white stripe in there somewhere. And then I could do some stitching along the edge there in probably the pink. Now I could always do some bobbin work in with the silk lame braid, and one of these days I'm going to sit down and practice that and get better at it. I just realized I didn't order more bobbins for the FOF. All right. Actually, I think I will stop and do that right now. And then when we come back, I will just do a quick run through of how I do the bias tape. In this case, it isn't bias, but it's going to be very narrow, so I think it'll go around the curves all right. And I wanted that stripe to be like this rather than going crazy on a diagonal stripe. So I'm off to order bobbins and then I'll be all right. 30 bobbins ordered. Sewing parts online comes through for me again. All right, now I have cut this strip, and this is straight of grain, and it is cut at 1/2 inch wide because I want to make a 1/4 inch tape, and I will be using this clover. Isn't it clover? Yes, clover. And all you need to do, you've got this end where you start, and I'm just going to put this in, start pushing it through, and then on this side there is a slot, and I just take a pin and pull it through till it comes out this end. I guess against black that's a little hard to see there. So when you pull it out, then it has the double fold on the back. Now you can do, say, Mary Ellen's Best Press, whatever, to help, but I find that I tend to distort things a little bit if I do that. So I turn it upside down, I guess you would say, so that I can see where the seam is, and I'm trying to guide this through evenly so that it isn't too much this way or too much that way. So it's a couple of things to manage, but it's going to do all the folding for you, and I just put my iron down and press it as it comes out. And particularly if I don't have the Best Press or Platter, whatever, then I'm going to lean my iron on it for a while. And this is where I just grab it to pull it. And this is metal, so it's hot, but they've given me a nice plastic handhold here, and you can see that it starts to make this tape. So I just continue it for however long I want it to be. And you can, I have seen people who just, you know, rip it on through there, but I like to make sure I have a good press on there, particularly something for one that's this narrow, because to try to go back and correct something then, or repress it. Let's see, there's a spot there that's going to be a problem. So what I'm going to do is just put it back in, check to make sure that this end is going in evenly, and apparently it's a little bit too much to one side, so I'm going to double check it here. And just keep moving through. It needs a little more time under the iron. And this one is nice because the folds are meeting in the center, which means that I'm not going to have a lot of that shadow through. And I'm trying to make sure that these edges, the stripes match up at this edge here. Let me get it closer here. So I want these two edges to meet here, and I want those stripes to meet so that it isn't going to shadow through. And I'm just going to finish this up. And there we have a nice string. Sorry, that probably boogled your eyes, didn't it? A nice long strip, much more than I will need, but I might want it. Well, I probably will want it for another project. And I can then, on the right side, also run it just to give it an extra crease there. So that is completed, and now we can, I really think this is the one I'm going to go with. I had thought the couching was going to be it, but then I hatched this little plot, The curve is probably going to take a little finagling around because this is not a bias tape, but I think I can do it. And again, when I do that, I am going to start in the center, the one closest to the center, sort of the shorter end of the track around, and get that established. I can always pull out the outside a little bit if I need to, but scrunching up the inside, I don't want to put any pleats or anything in it, so I'll start there. Now here I'm going to release the stitches at these 2 points so I can slide this under. I'm actually going to start, what I am trying to do is I'm going to have a little bit caught under here, and I want it to be as much white as I can so there isn't any black shadowing through. I do have some batting under there, but I've got that little bit of an edge where there isn't any batting, and I want to minimize the shadow as much as I can. So I'm going to release these 2 pieces. Then when I come around, I will be able to tuck it under. When I stitch it on, I'll be able to close this. It isn't going to be open enough that it's going to be a big problem. These are finished edges. So when I stitch this on, and I could use a double needle. I'm not sure I have a double needle, but I could use a double needle. But instead, I'm just going to do probably a narrow zigzag around, and probably in invisible, I think, so that if I use black or white, then it's going to interrupt this stripe and this dot, and I don't really want to do that. I want that juxtaposition of the two, the contrast of the stripe against the polka dot. So I'll release this, slide this end under, and then stitch around with invisible and a small zigzag, a narrow zigzag. Doesn't have to be a very short zigzag because these are finished edges, and as long as it holds it down and my hopping foot on my quilting machine or the presser foot on my domestic machine doesn't get caught in it. All right, here we are, and I'm much happier with this than what I had before. In the end, I went back to my sew line glue stick to make sure that the edges were all covered as I was going around. I didn't wing it because something would have been off and wobbled and whatnot. And then I also used my stylus a lot as I was stitching on the inside here, where I had to have something in there to make sure that that was lying flat as I went around. So a stylus, you could use the end of a seam rip or whatever, but just keep your fingers out of the way. Now, the one thing that I would do differently, I think, is to just pass this all the way underneath instead of trying to do it in pieces and stick it under there, because you can see that really wasn't a very good turn there. Not as bad down here, but it would have been better if I just had a continuous line, which would of course had to come together somewhere in there, but at least it would have been a better curve, I think. Overall, I'm pretty happy with it. I really like that contrast of the stripe with the polka dot. I don't know if I even want to do any more stitching with that. And I had mentioned wanting to do that winding piece here, and I might still do that. If I do, I will use a blue or is it purple air erasable? I guess blue is water erasable. And draw the curve ahead of time so I have something to follow, especially as I'm going behind this and coming around. And that could be in black, could be in pink. In some ways this pink is sort of, well, but it ties in with that. So, but it needs something more, obviously. The other thing I'm thinking about is maybe just doing some background stitches here, just, a line that goes out like this and another one like that. And that might be a possibility. I'm thinking maybe I will try the winding thing on this particular one. And maybe I want to do that before I even put these down. You may or may not remember, but these are backed with some batting so that if I'm winding black stitching around there and this goes over it, it isn't going to matter. So that's a possibility. I would have to unstick this, which isn't a big problem. I might leave it in place and then as I'm coming around there, lift it up and go under. Not sure. But these are easily put back in there, so I could do that in that particular one. So I would take this off, probably stitch this down with, no, I wouldn't stitch it down yet. I think with this in place, I would draw the line and do that first, put this on top, and then do all of that. Might look more natural. So that's something to try. On this one, I'm just not sure. I might do I want it in pink or yellow or both? If I do the background strips. I'm going to go find that village. I'm going to find that village that has that kind of stitching on it. Hang on. I found it. Took some doing. Did a little bit of cleaning up on the way, but I did find it. Where it should have been, it just got buried. All right, so this isn't strictly in the background, but I think you get the idea. Let me find one that has some better contrast here of what I'm thinking about, that I want different lengths that are placed staggered around in the background just to add a little bit. These are going over the rooftops, but rather than going under something, but that's kind of what I have in mind. I don't know. I may give it some more thought. It does need something though, and I'm not sure. It might be, you know, some circles or triangles or some other shapes on top of it. So I'm going to think about that. And then on this one, I think I will try doing the, if I can find a erasable pen, that sweeping sort of curve that winds in and out. The problem with doing it before I put these on is that it's then never going to curve on top of these, is it? Oh joy. So I wonder if I could manipulate it so it goes, say, over this, and then I can lift this up, continue under it. You know what? I'm going to give it a try. I'm going to leave things as they are, find myself a pen, draw a curve, and we'll see what happens. And that will probably be it for today. I'm not going to lie to you. This one has been a real struggle for me. And it's not that I don't have struggles. This is really bothering me now. But it's a good reminder to me that it isn't all just going to pop up lovely and swell as it is in your head, that sometimes I have to really work at it and just try a lot of different things till I find what I want. And sometimes I really do just have to stop and say, this isn't working. Your brain is not wanting to do any more on this. It's just flooded with a feeling of failure, and I have to stop and step back from it and say, remind myself, number one, that it isn't a failure. You learned a lot of things, but also that you're exploring and you can try other things. Start over again, take it back to some point, rip out some stuff, and redo it till you find something you like. This may not be the final product of this. I may do another one where I actually take that under here as a continuous line rather than breaking it. So it's been a learning experience in a lot of ways, and that's why I do these videos. And you know, maybe it's also a reminder to you that sometimes you just have to step back and think about it some more, or sometimes you just say, yep, didn't work, don't like it, and that's it. But on this one, I just liked it enough up to that point that I wanted to find something that was going to work to finish it off. Do these look like amoebas to anyone else? This one doesn't so much, but that one does, and I have no idea. It's a double nuclei amoeba, I guess. I don't know. So, all right, let me go find a pen and see if I can mark myself a curve here. The best I could do was this water erasable marking. I would prefer the air erasable, but I don't seem to have one of those anymore. So this is a note to self for the new year, is that I need to keep an inventory list of things to put in my grab and go catch-all. And I'm going to get some more markers. I could have sworn I had them somewhere. Do you get the feeling I need to do another reorganization day in my quilting studio? Yikes. All right, so you probably can't see it, but it's winding, so it goes under this, then comes on top, goes over this, and oh, do I want to do that? Now that I'm looking at it, this is going over. I think I want it to go under that and then come up on top of this, and then it's going, whoops, can't see that. Sorry about that. All right, so you probably can't see this. So it's going to start up here, go under that strip in the top part of this green. Then it's going to come out and on top of that, under this strip, and then on top of this pink, wind around, and then under the strip here. Now I'm going to leave these in place, which means I'm going to stitch them where they are, and then I will have to, when I'm doing all the stitching, work around all of that, but we're giving it a go. We're going to see how this works. I'm going to do it in black, in the railroad stitch that I like, which is this one, although it's in white here. But since it's on a white background here, I think I'm going to do that. I have to remember, of course, to put stabilizer under it, because I'm, for a large portion of it, just stitching on a single layer of fabric here. We'll see how that goes. You know how things have been running for me with this so far. So we're going to hope for the best, and it will turn out great. I'm just convinced. Here we have the little serpentine embroidery, and I like it. It's not overpowering in the black. I feared it might be, but in comparison to the size of these and the bright colors, I think it's fine. It sort of gives it some movement, but it's still in the background. So my next steps will be to decide how I'm going to stitch these down on the edges, and also that piece. So because I've got a black, this was not intentional, but it's giving me something to think about, because I have a black stripe over here and a white stripe over here. I could do, I was going to say I could do a white stitch there, but then it's going to blend into the background. So that may have to be either the green or the pink. If I want this to tie in with this particular piece, then I might do the pink. And do I want the pink on here, or do I want pink on here? So those are more decisions that need to be made. Kind of depends on how wild I want them to be, I guess. So that's something else to ponder. And I am in need of some lunch right now, and I do have several things to think about. So I will also ask for your kind input onto this. I appreciate those of you who are able to do that. So I'm not sure what I want to do up here or anything else that I want to do in the background here. So give me your thoughts on that down in the comments. And on this one, what do you think about stitching these down, the green and the pink and the stripe? And we will work on that next week, as well as the Alice piece. And what I did with that third one, which is the black and white, red and pink one. I think this one definitely needs something in the background. Before we go, I want to try something. Hang on. You thought I was finished ruminating. I just wanted to try cutting out a few shapes here. I happen to have these in the box, and it has some of the same colors that are in here, and a little sharper shapes than just all those ovals. Or of course, we always have the circle option, which you know I consider to be a good option in just about every situation. So that's another possibility you can ruminate about. I think I want it quite like that. Makes it too diagonal, which is not my intent. So advantages are that it starts to give a little more in the background, adds some more interest to the whole thing, but then it also draws attention from the black and white pieces. So maybe yes, maybe no. Let me know what you think. And then also what you think about this one. We will tackle these again next week and then give a start on the Alice piece, which in some ways I think will be easier because we already have some things established. If we want to have some consistency across that, then I think we won't have the kind of decision dilemmas we have on this one. Just thinking about turning it around here so the pinks aren't right next to each other. Start to see how they would look in relationship to each other. We could always have it crossing over blocks, couldn't we? Or, well, lots of things, lots of choices. Let me know what you think, whatever you have been calling out to me as I have gone through this kind of torturous process. So thanks for sticking it out with me. I know it's been probably a challenge to watch as I fumbled my way through this, but I'm happy with where I'm at this point. I know there's more that I need to do, but I'm pretty happy with the changes that I made up here, and that was my main goal for today. And then I also wanted to get started on this, and I'm pretty happy with that. There's kind of a funny little jog there, isn't there? But overall, pretty happy with it. And considering all that we went through on this one, I think we're in a good place. So let me pull this off, and see, it loses something. This may not be what goes in there in the end, but it just definitely loses something if it doesn't have more of this stuff going on in the background, you know? It just does, doesn't it? That may not be it, but something. All right, now I'm finished. Thank you so much for spending some time with me. Be sure to give me your input in the comments. I always appreciate that. I hope you are warm and safe wherever you are, or cool and safe, I guess, if you're in the Southern Hemisphere. I hope to see you next week. Please remember to like and subscribe. And until next week, be well, be safe, be happy, be quilting. Peace out.